Thank you for joining us today for the virtual Sunday service with the Center for Creative Living. CCL, a charter of the Universal Church of the Master, has served and supported the spiritual needs of its community here in the Bay Area for over 20 years.
Good morning and welcome. Yes, welcome to the Center for Creative Living. Can you see behind us? That's our center. And we've got chairs sitting in a circle, and that's probably for class that we have coming up, and that's on the 20th of May. We're going to get back into the classroom, and I'm going to be talking about how to get in touch with spirit guides. And that is a fantastic thing to be talking about. Yeah, and it's a different date. Originally, we were thinking we were getting back in on the 13th. That's not working as well as we'd hoped. So we're going to be going in on the 20th. And be sure to wear your mask when you come. Okay? And now, next week, we're going to have a wonderful speaker. We're going to have Tiffany Keeler. And I might not be pronouncing that correctly. It might be Tiffany Kiefer. Yes. And so I'm excited. If you've seen Tiffany before, I know you're really excited too to have her here. And one of the things about Tiffany is she's fun, she's cute, she's energetic, and she's going to be talking on Mother's Day. And what it's about is the powerful, unconditional love of a mother. Doesn't that sound great? Now, today, I'm going to be talking about mothering too, but it's mothering other children, not the ones you've birthed, but the ones that come into your home through different ways. And I think you're going to enjoy finding out how I've raised so many kids over it feels like a century, but I think it's really just been the last 60 years, okay? But I have been doing that a lot of raising kids. Today, Reverend Joan Stutes is going to be doing the prayer and a message. Joan, this is the first time we're going to have Joan doing that, and I think it's going to be great. Glad that you're here to watch her inaugural talk on a message and a prayer. Also, we have the Reverend Dr. Janet Childs. She's going to be doing a meditation. And have you ever watched her? She is incredible. Dr. Janet Childs will be here. And then Corry Gott, Reverend Corry Gott is going to be doing a video to accompany the song. So we have all of these women putting together a program for you today and then next week. Now, if any of you gentlemen out there would like to do a prayer, if you'd like to come talk, we'd love to have you. Yes, we would. This is not just a female-oriented church. We have lots of men. They just aren't appearing as in the video. So we'd love to have you do that, okay? So I want you to sit back, think yourself in the center, and watch our virtual church with the Center for Creative Living with me, Reverend Dottie Boon.
Good morning. I hope you are all well and happy this morning, this lovely spring morning. To begin, I'd like to take you on a little tour of my yard with all the flowers in it. And I hope that you too are seeing flowers everywhere, those joyful blooms bouncing in the breeze. By my front porch, I have petunias. Yes, pink and red and purple petunias. They are such happy flowers. And out by the curb, I have iris that I'd totally forgotten about. And there they are. One is a deep purple, a deep royal purple. And the other one is an angelic white, just gorgeous. And my roses are blooming, and my cactus even is blooming. In the backyard, I have a lemon tree with about 100 shiny, bright yellow lemons. It almost looks like a Christmas tree. And my gardener planted 2 hibiscus for me. And this year I decided to plant tomatoes and squash so that we can have some homegrown vegetables. I'm hoping that you're enjoying the burst of blossoms in the spring and perhaps even enjoying some gardening activities, however limited your space is to do that. I'm Joan Stutes, and I'm asking you to join in a prayer with me today, a prayer for peacefulness, for joyfulness, and for the new spring being a wonderful, productive time for all of us. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for joining in with me. As we become quiet and peaceful, I ask that you place your worries and your cares aside, that you let all the concerns drift into the sky, away from you. Everything goes away and you are left with peacefulness, the peace that passeth all understanding. And as I am peaceful, my peacefulness spreads. As each one of us is peaceful, we are creating a peaceful millisecond around the world, because as we individually are peaceful, it spreads to my family, to my friends, to my neighborhood, to my city, my state, my country, and my peacefulness circles the globe for that millisecond of world peace. Our Reverend Dottie Boon is our speaker today, and we give thanks for her and bless her in her wonderful efforts to keep the Center for Creative Living open and productive and in good standing, and such a source of help for so many people. We give thanks for the people that are joining us in this virtual Sunday, and we bless them. We bless the members of the Center for Creative Living also. Thank you for being here today to join in this special moment, this special time, just as we together explore spirituality and what it means to us. Thank you so much for this peacefulness. And we might want to remember when we were children and we're romping in the newly cut grass and enjoying the smell, the pungent, fresh smell of that grass. And perhaps we even laid on the grass and stared up at the sky and watched clouds drift around, forming various shapes. And perhaps during that time, you even felt like you were drifting up to the sky. And I do that now. I lie on the ground and let the sun relax me, and then I feel like I'm drifting up into the sky. I encourage you to let that drifting around happen, because it only happens when you're peaceful. This peacefulness is available day and night. Thank you, God, for giving us this peacefulness, and thank you, Universal Spirit, for embracing us day and night, in the loneliest of night and the productivity during the day. Thank you, God, and thank you, Universal Spirit, for being here with us today as we explore our activities, our spiritual nature. And thank you so much for this beautiful, special spring day. Amen. So it is, and amen again.
Good morning. I told you I'd be back, and here I am. And, you know, I have raised so many different kids that came to my house by many unique routes to get here because they had been having a difficult time where they were. And I think you all know the basis of raising kids, whether they're your own or somebody else's, is love. And that's what I feel. When it happens is when a child comes to see me, and these are kids for some reason are leaving home. I've had children who have been abandoned, neglected in juvenile hall, kids that just had heard that this is the place they could come be, was at my house. I've had some of my siblings come by and stay for a summer. When I say some of my siblings, there's 9 of them. Yeah, I'm the eldest of 10. And so there were times when their home situation got so they needed to have a place to stay, and they would come by. And you know, when I found out that the love that some kids were missing was easy to just be there for them, it meant listening. And that's what happens when a kid comes to my house, or when we get a child out of, as I said, juvenile hall. And they say, my parents don't love me, or they say so many different things. Some of the kids that came to my house had been abused, molested, ignored, and thrown away. And so when they come here, the first thing I do is listen. Sounds really easy, doesn't it? I have listened to kids talk forever. I've listened to them talk when they came in at 2:00 at night and somebody said, this child doesn't have a place to sleep. I've listened to them when they've called me crying hysterically. These are teenagers. The youngest child I ever took in was 13. And Kathy came in at a time when her family was just burned out. She had run away for the second, third time, and they couldn't deal with that anymore. And I said, I'll take her. Now, it was easier than dealing with the authorities, whether it was juvenile hall or the county. They just wanted a child to have a place to stay. And so I was able to transfer all of the school information to a local junior high and then to a high school so that she could continue with her education. And she was not the first child I'd taken in. Before that, I had the place that I was living with my family. My 2 sons and my husband and I were living in Santa Clara in an apartment complex when the next door neighbor moved out. And I heard them moving, and I saw them moving, and I saw the moving van come. But I didn't realize they hadn't taken their 17-year-old son with them. His name was Ray. And I found him sitting in front of his apartment, leaning against the wall, sobbing, because his parents, his mother and his stepfather and his baby sister weren't there. And there was no note saying where they'd gone. So I said, come on in and stay. He was 17. He was going into his senior year in high school. And I didn't think that he needed to be anywhere but at our house. And so he moved with us when we moved into a home out of the apartments. Now, this young man, his name was Ray, looked like young men that you see quite often. He was very tall, very gangly. He had long, greasy hair. He had sneakers that his toes were coming out of, and he wore a long black coat, and he hunched. And when he came, he handed me a bottle of phenobarbital and said, my mother says I have to take one of these every day. No explanation, just that he had to take them every day. And I said, okay, well, we'll put them in the cupboard and see what happens. Ray didn't do much well. You know what I mean? If he picked up something, he dropped it. If there was something on the carpet, I think he tripped over fluff on the carpet. He was not very organized, and he never bathed. And I thought, what am I going to do with this human being one of God's children. And one day I watched him walking down the street, and he looked like he knew where he was going. And that's the only positive thing I could say to this young man. When you walk down the street with those long legs, it looks like you can really move. I bet you're a runner. And he said, no, I've never run. I said, well, let's take you down to the high school and I'll take my watch and time you. Now, I don't even know what a good time is to run. But he went down and he ran around the track once and I timed him. And I said, that looks good. I bet you could go in for track. And he said, oh, no, nobody want me for track. I said, let's see. So I called the coach, who I happen to have a good working relationship with. And he goes, oh, no, Mrs. Boone, what have we got going today? And I told him about Ray. He said, well, send him in. So the first day of his senior year, Ray went in and talked to the coach. And I told him how fast he'd run. And the coach says, that's a pretty good time. And so Ray started his senior year, and he got on the track team. And when he graduated that summer, he had a letter sweater in track. But the difference between the Ray I got and the Ray that left was the fact that taking his support from the coach, he got his hair cut so it wasn't greasy. It was beautiful brown. He got him a shower every single day, which really helped. And he got a pride in doing something well. And I did a lot of looking, and I found Ray's dad. His dad was living in San Francisco and was a mechanic. And he had no idea where Ray was and hadn't had any idea for 10 years. And so I told him about Ray and how well he did. And he said, oh, that's my son. And Ray moved up to San Francisco, lived with his dad. And last I knew, he became a mechanic and a part of the garage that his father ran. Now, what did that take? It took a lot of love. It took a lot of believing in God, the Creator, that it makes us all perfect. And it also believed that it only takes one larger can of beans to serve another person. And that is what started. That's why I then got Kathy. When her brother said she was in juvenile hall at only 13, and he helped us sign her out, so she came and lived with us. And she lived with us and was going to high school. And then, so there I had one child that had been abandoned, and I had another, Cindy, who'd been thrown away. Her folks found out when she was 15 that she had been sleeping with her boyfriend, and they kicked her out. They locked all the doors and said she was no longer their daughter. And she went and found a parked car at the dump, and that's where she lived until somebody mentioned Cindy. So we went and got her, and she came and lived at our house. And we made sure she got her GED. And she went on to a junior college and then college and graduated with a degree in psychology. And with that degree, she opened up a rooming house up in Angels Camp. And it was a place that children, mainly boys, could go who had physical difficulties. And watching the success of her was just absolutely amazing. I had a boy that it took my heart. My sister Sierra had come from a trip she had taken across the United States, and she was visiting some friends of hers in Iowa. And they went to a bar, and there was a young blonde boy there. I mean, she said he looked so young. He wasn't drinking, he was helping the bartender. And he started talking to her, and she said, I'm going to California. And he said, I want to go. Can I go with you? And she said, well, I don't know what I'm going to do with you. And he said, please, I've got to get out of here. And he told her her story, his story. And his story was so amazingly bad. He had been kidnapped when he was young and was part of the sex trade. And he was kidnapped when he was 7. And now he was 15, 16. And he had been so abused sexually in every way you can think of. and he just had to get out of town. And she said, okay. His father had rejected him. Nobody wanted him. And he came to our house. And when he came to our house, his name was Bruce. And I said, do you like the name Bruce? And he said, no, not particularly. I said, okay, we're going to rename you. So we named him Ian. And he loved that name. And he got a job. It was in March. And he got a job working at Great America. Now, Ian always wanted to be a dancer. He danced around our living room. He danced around and did so many wonderful things. And he loved his job at Great America. And so every paycheck he got, he would not only give me a little bit of money, but he'd also buy me a bouquet of flowers and said, thank you so much, Mama Boone. I really do love and appreciate this and what's happening. And he got a job at Great America as a dancer when they were putting on Broadway shows. And he just felt like he was on top of the world. Now, Ian's life was not much longer. The next year, he died of AIDS. And he was one of those bright spots in my life that flashed and then burned out. But I saw him being joyful. And that's about the main thing you can do. And it goes on because there's other kids that came, and there were other kids who came to stay with me that weren't kids anymore. They were just looking for a place that they could come. And I had people, it seemed like I had them sleeping everywhere. I had a playroom that had 2 couches, and I had a bedroom that had 2 bunk beds, and I had a middle bedroom that didn't have anybody in there. And so we have all these kids that came and stayed. And right now I want to look at something that is important for me to say at this time. Because what I have always said that we needed to help people was love, structure, spirituality, and joy. And the love isn't about, oh, yum, 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 I love you. The love is acceptance, where you say, you are a wonderful child of God. Come stay with me. It doesn't take that much. We would buy clothes at the used clothes store. We would go up to Hope Thrift. And all the kids, my 2 boys, the kids that we had taken in, we all would go and get clothes, and they were used. Yeah. And they didn't mind. They just thought it was so great that somebody cared for them. Now, when I talk about structure, the structure that I had was a rule that I put on my refrigerator. And this set of rules said, and I'll read it. Number 1, you will be in charge of your room. I won't go in there unless you ask me, or if it starts to smell. Yep. Your privacy is valued. And most of these kids had never had a room all their own. It was the middle bedroom. We painted it so many different colors because every child got to paint the room the color they wanted. It went from yellow to orange to blue to green. And one that was really great, it was black and white. And that was Ian. And we even painted the floor black with and white. It was a white floor with black diagrams. It was amazing. Even the bedspread was black and white. And he loved that because he had designed it and he was really into design. Number 2, laundry, which is always difficult. And my laundry was done on Monday. And if the kids got their clothes in on Monday, they got washed. And if they didn't, I didn't wash them. And you can imagine a high schooler not getting clean gym clothes to go to school in. They only missed that once, and then they got their clothes. Now, the structure was to make them realize that they had to be able to take care of themselves. And housekeeping, I'd say, what chore do you want to do? And we talk about, do you want to take out the garbage? Do you want to help? We had a pool in our new home. Do you want to clean the pool? Do you want to? And one of my kids, that was one of the boys, said, can I clean the bathrooms? And I said, what? And he said, yeah, I clean the bathrooms because everybody's going to notice because they go there at least once a day. And I get a lot of accolades for cleaning the bathroom. I was trying to get him to take out the garbage, and I went, sure. And he, well, all the time he was with us, that's what he did. The other thing was dinner was always at 7. And if you were there, you ate. And if you weren't, you prepared your own meals. And dinner was always so fun because that's what everybody got to talk about, what they'd done that day. And each kid got to choose what they wanted to eat one day of the week. And they could either fix it themselves, or I would fix it. Or if they wanted pizza, we'd go get it. And it was amazing because for the first time in their life, quite often, they had an opportunity to ask for something. One of the things that I absolutely said is no profanity. I don't deal well with that. And the other thing, every time somebody left the house, they had to say, I love you, Mama Boone. Well, what did that do? That usually was the first time that they'd ever said, I love you. And they'd start out when they first came to the house. They'd go, I love you, Mama Boone. I'd say, what'd you say? And then after they'd been there a couple of weeks, they'd yell, I love you, Mama Boone. I'll be back at 5. Or I love you, Mama Boone. I'll be back. And that opened them up to being able to say, I love you. Now, the spirituality that I had, it was kind of weird. I started a thing called the Church of the Chocolate Chip Cookie. The Church of the Chocolate Cookie was every Wednesday evening. And then Wednesday evening, right after we cleaned off the dishes, we made chocolate chip cookies. And each person got to put in their ingredient. I usually measured the flour, or I got kind of messy. But from there on, so the nuts, if they weren't chopped right, the nut chopper was the one that they said, wait, what happened to the nuts? If they were too salty, who put in the salt? Each person was responsible about their own ingredients. Isn't that like life? Aren't you responsible for what you put into it? I bet you could have the Church of the Chocolate Chip Cookie at your house too. The kids loved it. And if you didn't get in on the baking, you didn't get in on the eating. Wow. You have to be responsible for what you do. But it was all done with so much love. And now there's things that you want to think about when you're looking at getting in kids, because there's some legality. When the guardian was known, I would have them sign guardianship papers for me. And that's a temporary guardianship. I wasn't adopting these kids. I was helping them with temporary guardianship. Now, the other thing is, it wasn't always kids that came and stayed. As I mentioned earlier, I'd have adults that were out of work, out of a place to stay, getting out of a relationship. Then they call and say, do you have someplace I can, at least stay for a while? Sure. Come on. So we have love. We have acceptance. We have structure. But the thing that I just insisted on, that I've never heard anybody else say, is we had joy. Yeah, I taught the kids how to be joyful, how to give. If I was going to be doing a birthday cake, and it seems like I was always doing a birthday cake, they could help decorate it. They'd help frost it. For every occasion, we made cards. We signed cards. We sang songs. We had a pool, so the kids were always in and out of the pool. My sister reminded me of the marshmallow fights in the pool because you couldn't hurt anybody with a wet marshmallow, but they looked funny bobbing around on the pool. But that whole idea of making it fun. One of the things I taught the kids, because they would get so upset at the news, and I said, if you don't like the news and you want to make a statement, just throw a molten milk ball. Oh, they loved it. No, we don't like that. They throw a molten milk ball because they stick to the TV. And then afterwards, we'd wipe the TV off. But that energy of being able to not like something and be okay and not hurt somebody, not take that anger and put it into a gun or a knife or anything, but put it into a malted milk ball, throw it away. And if you don't want to do that, you can eat it. How's that sound? Now, some of the kids I got were from low-income houses, and they had never celebrated anything. There hadn't been joy when they were being raised. So we always celebrated their birthday. But when I realized the lack of joyfulness in these kids' lives, what I did is I developed a thing called Kids Day. Kids Day was always the middle of July on Sunday. And we had them dress up in costume to celebrate whatever it was. And we had things like Boone Tennial, and that was celebrating 1976. We had Boonstock, obviously, that was fun. We had a real band, a real rock band that played outside, and people danced, and it was so great. We also had Boone County Fair, and the kids got to make all sorts of things and put them out on tables and sell them. Yeah. We had things that always had a theme. Boone Island, we had made a beautiful volcano in the backyard, and I had a kid in there throwing out popcorn balls. And of course, everything was accompanied by music and excitement. And all of these things got so out of hand that they got so many people involved that they sent out from the Mercury News a photographer and a person to write the story about what we were doing with Kids Day and what we were doing with all of these Boone themed things. And people were calling from all over. How do you have a Kids Day? First, you get some kids that need to learn about joy, and you get them interested in it. So think about that. What is your recipe for helping kids? Is your recipe just to ignore them and sit them in front of the TV or one of their media things? Or is it doing things with them, getting them involved? Now, these weren't young kids. These were all teenagers I'm talking about. That they found that it was joyful to learn how to give and learn how to accept and learn how to have some kind of structure. When I talk about structure, since these were kids that were going to school, one of the things I did was I also had a time set aside in the evening for help with homework. And sometimes it was some of the kids that helped the younger kids. So think about that. Now, when I talk about the people that came to our house, sometimes there were people that I didn't care for, but I didn't make them wrong. I found ways of accepting who they were. For instance, one of the things that the kids were told, if you're coming to stay at the house and you're coming to live here, and if you're a smoker, you have to smoke in the patio. No smoking in the house. And quite often, if a kid came and he came with cigarettes, he didn't smoke after he left our house. Not because it wasn't accepted. We accepted him exactly, or she exactly how they were. It's because it wasn't a big thing. I didn't make them wrong. I didn't make kids wrong because of the color of their hair or the color of their clothes or what they chose to wear. I love them. And that is the way we should be with everyone. Not just the people under the roof of our house, but we should be that way with the people under the sky above us. Loving people, accepting people, letting people know where your boundaries are, what your rules are, and showing them joy. Whatever that joy is. Somebody once said, Dottie, do you laugh all the time? And I admit, I laugh a lot. Because to me, this is a beautiful place the Creator has made for us. And for me not to enjoy it says there's something wrong. It's not wrong. It's just different. Right now, during the pandemic, there's been so much hatred and so much anger and so much frustration. Realize that life is short. We don't know for sure how long we're going to be here, so enjoy the time you have. Enjoy the people in your life. And don't throw away your kids. They are our future. And I hope you have a beautiful future. And thank you so much for watching.
Oh, child, you are meant to be strong. Oh, child, being able to believe. Oh, child, you are the power. Oh, child, inside of me, inside of me. Oh, child, sing us into a new day, new day. Oh, child, you are quiet, deep and true. Yes, you, oh, child, bring us to the horizon, the horizon. Oh, child, you are the one. You are the one to see us through. Oh, child. Oh, child. Can you whisper the secret of innocence, laughter, and play? Oh, child, will you hold us to the fire so that your magic hope is lighting the way? Magic hope is lighting the way. Forever to stay. Oh, child, rise up in me. Let us be free. Oh, child, together we can be. Oh, child, this is our destiny. Oh, child, oh, child, oh, child, oh, child. Ooh. Sing us, oh, child, into a new day. Oh, child, you are quiet, deep, and true. Oh, child, bring us us to this horizon. Oh child, you are the one to see us through. This is our destiny. Our destiny.
Thank you for joining us for this celebration of faith and fellowship. We'll be back next Sunday, and for those of you, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can leave them in the comments section. If you appreciate this video and the work that the Center for Creative Living is doing, please press like on the video. You can share the video, and also please subscribe, because that will help this community and the church grow. Remember, in these difficult and challenging times, the opportunity to give and support an organization that has done so much for the community is tremendously important. Please help the Center for Creative Living continue in the wonderful work that it does. We will make it through this. We will be stronger for it. Our faith will carry us. Be blessed, be safe, and have a wonderful week.